Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Succeed with Dyslexia interview. We have been absolutely blessed with incredible people who have come and been interviewed on our Succeed with Dyslexia, and we have done exactly the same again today. We have another incredible guest and a really good friend of mine who is going to be sharing kind of her take on dyslexia and how it's kind of affected her, but also as well what she's doing within the dyslexia world as well. So I'm absolutely thrilled to have you. If you wouldn't mind just to introduce yourself and tell our viewers and our listeners a little bit of maybe your name, that would be a good start, and a little bit about yourself. That would be wonderful. And thank you again for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you, Darren, for giving me this platform. It's really wonderful. So, hi, my name's Cassandra Rollett-May, and I am leader of, the CEO, I suppose, of Rollett-Ed Education, and I'm a private tutor consultant for students who find learning challenging. So I was a primary school teacher, so that's kind of my basis, but my specialism is now working and supporting learners with dyslexia and who find learning challenging.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. So if you could just tell me, how does kind of what's your connection with dyslexia, as in were you diagnosed, what kind of age, how does that kind of how does dyslexia work with you?
Figure in my life? Yeah, I can definitely do that. So I was really fortunate. Yeah, I was really fortunate because I'm in my 40s. So dyslexia when I was at primary school wasn't something that lots of people knew about. But I went to a small private school, so I was really lucky with that. And the principals of the school had done research and qualifications in dyslexia. So lots of students who went through the school, if their learning wasn't in line with their peers, kind of had an initial assessment and then were sent on to another organisation to be assessed if that was necessary. So I was kind of picked up really early on, formally diagnosed when I was 8, and in the primary school that I was in, I had individual support, so I didn't sit the 11 plus and was given and taken out of French and a couple of other lessons like that. So I was given one-to-one to work on specific programs. Something like Alpha to Omega was one of the ones that I used, and there were specific reading books to build up my confidence and my skills. So I'm always eternally grateful for that, because my parents had the more tricky side of it, because they were told that dyslexia didn't really exist at that time in the 80s. So I was given a great deal of support, and that enabled me to move onwards. And my class sizes were quite small. And at one point, I would say a third of the class, nearly half the class maybe, was dyslexic because they'd heard about the support being given by the school. So, we were able to work together. So I did feel really fortunate. And then throughout my academic sort of side, I've had my own tutors because learning was difficult at school. And that's kind of what spurred me on to do what I do now. I think I wanted to be a teacher from the time I was about 9 or 10, because I knew that I had been given that opportunity and I was really grateful, and I wanted to help others like myself.
Thank you again for sharing that. It's really wonderful and heartwarming to hear. I guess that the other side, from what I've experienced in the sense of, the support, and when we take kind of diagnosis, for instance, and you say, you was kind of formally diagnosed at 8, was it 8?
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned.
Yes, that's correct.
That's an age, I guess, where you can then still kind of develop and help and support, the children. We're having, more and more stories now, statistics of people being, late diagnosis. I was 36, mm-hmm. which is, in those circumstances, a very kind of late diagnosis. So I guess, it must have been within school then, with that support, a real kind of creative kind of environment, or, a real kind of supportive environment. And I guess, was there any kind of subjects that you struggled with within school that you can remember with?
Yeah, definitely. My dyslexia kind of comes across in the typical literacy side of it, but also maths and processing and remembering was kind of my area. So hence why I didn't get put through to the initial assessments, because I could speak the things, but I couldn't necessarily remember in time for a test. So in primary school, it was definitely really understood. Being creative, looking at things differently, it was encouraged, which was really super. But it was more to do with that taking out and doing that extra lessons as well. But in secondary school, there wasn't a great deal of support during my time. And also because I wanted to learn, you have that typical teachers thinking that obviously you can talk and you're interested in learning, but then the work that you produce doesn't match. So the teachers at the time really struggled to help me and understand, and there wasn't a great deal of support then. But I got through that system with a personal private tutor, and then I was able to go to college. So I only sat up until GCSEs because I knew that I wouldn't be able to pass A levels, and then went to FE college, and then I was able to get to university. So again, I'm really grateful for the support during it. It wasn't an easy journey, but it's the development of everybody working together and just having that end goal. But I do think what you're saying is really interesting, because it's never too late to have a diagnosis, but it depends whether you need it or not. But the system that we work within means that if you slip through that net of diagnosis, your journey is a little bit more frustrating and troublesome. And that's kind of where where you and I are supporting people now, because if it is picked up in school and supported correctly, then that's really great. But sometimes we have the older, the people of your age and in between, actually, all ages and even older. And it's not until their children might get diagnosed, or even their grandchildren, that they go, oh, wait, that's in my family line as well. And I think so it's never too late, and it definitely helps your well-being if you can attach sort of a neurodiversity understanding to it. But it's the strategies and the support you receive that is the bigger influence, I think.
Absolutely. You touched on so many, wonderful points there. And we do, we talk about dyslexia and we say, when we kind of diagnose as it, and again, like you said, the diagnosis, sometimes people might get to kind of my age and think, well, actually, I've got this far, I don't necessarily need the diagnosis. Mm-hmm. And I guess, and there's pros and cons, I guess, for everything, in life, and, what people think, should they get one or shouldn't they? But I guess when we talk about kind of diagnosis, I kind of attach it to, a support in some aspects, or even to kind of educate the people around you in the nicest possible way.
Definitely.
Say, look, this diagnosis means this, and it starts the conversation. Because if we take it kind of in the workplace and from what your journey mentioned before, when you're saying kind of in the primary school, you was in, quite a small classroom, and there was the support and the diagnosis. So it was almost like they started that kind of journey with you, and then it kind of filtered out somewhat, because the parameters got bigger, the class sizes maybe got bigger, the work, the demands got kind of, bigger, and maybe there was a little bit less understanding. I'm not too sure. Yeah.
No, totally hit the nail on the head. That's totally correct. It's different timings, and that's still kind of the same for today. And you're right. I think it's the diagnosis and the label as such is definitely a personal choice. But I always talk to the families that I work with and say, look, it is totally down to you. But if you want to access support, sometimes financial support, but just that level of getting the accommodations that you deserve, you need to have the diagnosis, you need to have that awareness. But that comes with its own troubles, because diagnosis isn't necessarily a cheap option, but it's what is your outcome and what's the purpose and what will it do? Because if it's going to help someone's mental well-being as well as provide the strategies, and as you said, it's the educating others, because if you just go, oh, they're a little bit behind, that's not filtering through with the strategies that someone might need, or empowering them to look at their learning in a different way. They'll just have a different label of being a slow learner or something else. So it's a very difficult thing to decide, and it has to be a personal thing. But as you know, with how you're working now, it's getting that information out there so that everybody's more informed and more understanding of what a neurodiversity means.
Absolutely. And I guess, if we take kind of the perfect scenario would be, primary school, secondary school, college, university, workplace. Mm-hmm. And there was a knowledge in each sector of that, each section, I guess, of this, so that throughout the journey, you kind of grow, because, the common perception, I guess, of someone with dyslexia is that we know everything about dyslexia, and we know it's on a massive scale. My dyslexia would be different to your dyslexia. And just because I guess we know we have dyslexia, again, it doesn't make everyone kind of an expert, so to speak, into it. So we're all kind of learning it ourselves.
Absolutely.
So it's very difficult when you go into, say, a workplace and someone says, oh, okay, I understand on the application form, you say you have dyslexia, and they say, what do you need? And that question sometimes can be very difficult because sometimes we don't know what we necessarily need.
Absolutely. I think the whole phrase of knowledge is power and information is key. When you have a diagnosis or you have some of that background information, or someone says the word dyslexia, if you find learning a bit challenging, trying to decode what all of the information on a diagnosis means or in a book can therefore be difficult. And if you don't know what you're entitled to or what could make a difference, then equally, as you said, especially in the workplace, school might be fine, there might be some support there, but you go out into work and you're like, so you disclose that you may have a learning need or not, and then you don't, the people might not be able to understand you or help you. So it is, what you're doing is so important because it's empowering. And then on my little level with my individual students, it's trying to empower them to have that understanding, whatever age they are, and their parents too, and then delivering training to teachers so that they can see things from a different perspective. Because I think, as you said, we're all on a spectrum of our needs. And so our dyslexias look different, and also our journeys, because you were later in life, but that didn't mean that you didn't struggle at school or have some challenges. But I knew what I was finding difficult and why, and so that helped me to a degree. But it's knowing where you are, and then once the students can find out what they're good at and how they can transfer that into their learning, that means as they get older and go into college or education and then into the workplace, they will, if nothing else, understand how they learn best. Yeah. So that can be communicated. So I think that's really key in the world we live in today.
I completely agree with you, and with the aspect of, I mean, you are, I've spoken to you many times before, and we connect on social media, and I know that you have a real love for learning and educating and teaching and helping people, and I guess sometimes it's breaking the myth, I guess, of not the myth. Sorry, I use the terminology myth, but when we look at, say, dyslexia, the story comes normally, I struggled in kind of education. I mean, I can just talk from my own personal experiences, struggled in education. But but that doesn't stop you, because you're dyslexic, doesn't stop you in education then flourishing, like you did, and then having a real love for learning and helping other people, which brings me nicely on to, could you tell us a little bit about the work that you do at the moment, and how you support and help?
Yeah, so I was a primary school teacher and then a Senko, and in every case I did my best and I tried to fit with the system and work through it. But I found that my own learning journey, meaning that I had some difficulties in learning and spelling and getting things organised and doing that, had an impact. But more importantly, when I had the Senko role, I couldn't always support the students in the way that I felt best. And that's often due to finances, time, staffing restrictions, all those things. And we know that's what is going in the school. So I understood that. But I always feel with our learners that sometimes they can slip through the net because they're doing okay, but actually they're not being their best selves because their neurodiversity isn't being understood or supported in the best way. So I came out and started my own little business, which looks at supporting individual students. So I want to, my kind of purpose and mission is always to make learning more fun, to learn your purpose and identify it yourself. So one of the key phrases that I've picked up is your story is your story. So use it to be empowered, I think is really important, because there's lots of data, there's lots of research on whether learning to learn, the metacognition, all those kind of words is true, appropriate, all that kind of thing. And I get that, and I'm not an academic, but what I do understand is if you can meet someone where they are and talk to them about the things that they enjoy. So if we have someone who really isn't enjoying their academic journey and they're really struggling and they're putting words like stress and it's not enjoyable, we can't really change that if they're in the normal education system. But what we can do is help them see things through a different lens, to look at themselves. And whether, again, you choose the dyslexia superpower route or whatever you choose, it's looking at, hey, look, your brain works differently. This is how the brain works. This is where you can do these things. And also looking at, what do you do for fun? How do you enjoy yourself? So, if there's someone who's really sporty and active, or there's someone that likes to be creative with music or the arts, or they love their pets, or they like talking to people and they're a really good friend. All of those underlying skills can be used to help in the areas that they find learning more challenging, but maybe no one's ever pointed that out, or they don't feel that they're good at anything. I know for me, when I was diagnosed all those years ago, they said, oh, it's okay, because even if literacy isn't your thing, you're bound to be musical or sporty. I wasn't. So I was like, therefore I'm not good at anything. And that's my belief that I had for quite a few years, because that's what I'd been told, that if you're not good at one thing, you'll be good at something else. And I was okay at stuff, just not brilliant. So it's like, I think that's the importance of my role now, is to facilitate building a positive self-image, building an understanding of learning, and kind of flipping the negative, because we know that if you're struggling with something, you're not going to want to do it, or you're not going to think that practice is going to make any difference. But if we can use the things that they enjoy doing to make the learning slightly more fun, then that ultimately is kind of my goal, and then helping the parents use those strategies too.
Absolutely. And it is phenomenal, the work that you do, and the help and support that you give. And one of the things that you mentioned around kind of supporting and really kind of emphasizing on the fact of finding yourself and what you're good at. And what you mentioned was absolutely spot on in the sense that if we look at kind of the common kind of perception of dyslexia, and they say, okay, so you will be sporty, or you will be able to do music and stuff like this. Sometimes there's even more added pressure, because what we then start doing, or you're good at art, these kind of things. And I'm not saying that there's still, a lot of creative people out there, but we start thinking, if we go down that route before, we start thinking, well, okay, I'm struggling academically with these kind of things, like, the reading, the writing. And then someone's telling me that I should be now being able to draw really well, or to sing very well, or to play sports. And then it's actually, I'm not too sure if I'm good at this. And you're absolutely right, that working through that, that method with someone to actually say, look, there is many things that you're very, very good at. And, empathy, all these different things that you can bring in that are not just, the academical side of it. But you must see that with your students when you're working with them, them going through that kind of kind of process.
Definitely,
of light bulb moments.
And it's the breakthrough of that's, I think, where I'm not unique. There are lots of teachers who are dyslexic or have other neurodiversities. But the thing that stands me separate is that when I say I understand, we know that we're all different learners, but I really do understand the process. I understand the negatives and the positives. And I'm hopeful, like yourself, that we are role models in the everyday. It's great that people with neurodiversities have reached entrepreneurship and are, Olympic winners or gold medals or writers in this that have brought awards. That is fantastic. But there are also people like myself that's in a run-of-the-mill normal day work, but saying, hey, look, you can go to university, you can do these things, you don't have to go to universities, there's other routes that you can take, but that you can find your purpose, and whatever you want to be, irrespective of a neurodiverse difference, you can achieve that. You just might need to take a different path. And it's shining the light on where you are and where you need to go. And it's not easy, because we know in the world that we live in that mental health is something that we have to consider. But we can't change the world around us. We can't change the education system straight away. That's what we're both working towards, is changing a system. But when you're in it, all you can do is adapt yourself, and the parents can do that too. They can start to see things from a different light, because if they don't understand dyslexia or something similar, they also can't put themselves in the child's shoes. Neither can a teacher. They can have the training, but they can't see it if learning something is easier for them or remembering something is easier. So it's about, as you said, that sharing that understanding to the world around the individual learner, and then allowing them to also see their path through it. And that's what I feel, in my small little way, I'm trying to make a difference and hopefully resonate with the students, because I always say I'm very happy happy that if I'm not the right person to work with a child, that's completely fine. But up until now, no one has ever not wanted to work with me. So I think it's so important to build that rapport. That's, again, a privilege that I have, because when you work one-to-one, you see these amazing individuals. And as you said, you see those light bulb moments, and it's amazing. And I'm very grateful.
And I just want to add that I think you're undervaluing when you say my kind of small way and I'm doing a small change. I always think, with your work and every, that it's like a pebble effect. So it is. It feels like you're putting a little pebble in, but the waves that it's bringing off, and the people it's helping, and the conversations that you're starting as well is admirable. So.
Yeah, thank you. That's the only reason that I'm doing what I'm doing, is because if I can change, like the influential teachers I had in my life, if I can help one person on their journey, that's great. Hopefully it's more than one person, but it's that you're just doing your little bit, and it does have a ripple effect, and it does make a difference. And that's why I also do my Facebook group, which is Lighthouse on Dyslexia, hence the lighthouse behind me, because I want to help parents feel more empowered too, and carers know how to support their learners.
Absolutely. And we talk about starting the conversation, and a community, and you have an incredible community, and it is difficult if we take kind of, you mentioned about kind of mental health and, well-being and stuff, which is absolutely paramount. And we're learning every day, more and more around this, and we're more acceptable to the knowledge of it now than we were, say, 10 years ago, and we were from 10 years and 10 years after that, which is incredible. If we took kind of, someone with dyslexia within, say, the school setting, the confidence level, if they're really kind of struggling, not having that support, that could be really kind of quite detrimental in the sense of the mental health side of it, because already, that anxiety and feeling of walking into a classroom, say, of English or maths, geography, or something like, I'm just sort of pinpointing certain subjects, but that anxiety of walking through and sitting there, and then you build on that. I mean, school, you look at 5 years in UK, 5-6 years with, A levels and things like this.
Yes.
But that level of anxiety and stress doesn't just go away. It continues outside the classroom and moves forward, doesn't it?
Yeah, because I think that's the other important thing to tackle when I'm working with students, is that I am there to help them with their academic learning, whatever that I've been asked to support with, and wherever they need to go on their academic journey. But the undercurrent, the thing that is more important to me, other than the learning how to learn, is building that positive way of being, because we do know that children make up their mind about who they are pretty much by the time they're 7. And if anyone else compounds those words of negativity, it's really, or they're self-telling themselves that they're not good at things and it's their fault, and all those kind of negative things that go along the line. Positive experiences can come in, but it's harder to shift that thought process. And because our education system is about levels and achieving all the way through, it's hard to see beyond that when you're in it. We know as adults that it's only a small part, and we can change an outcome of a learning experience. And we still can be my age, older, going back to university and doing things and changing a career. But when you're in that first initial stages, it's so vast beyond. So it is really important with what your organisation is doing, and what people can do within the school networks to change belief systems from an early age, because it does start then, and it's about seeing the bigger picture, because you can't just tell someone, oh, don't be so silly and change your mind, because it's ingrained in their thinking. And I always feel with dyslexia that the thing you're assessed for is your academic ability, but there's the other side of it, which is your personal understanding of things, and your confidence levels, and the words you use to talk about yourself. So you may seem to the rest of the world to be relatively positive and moving along okay, but that internal thing, and we know that there are different levels in society where people with dyslexia may not finish their academic journey, may stop completely, or may not pursue a career because they don't think they're good enough, and that's not the case. They may need extra help, but that doesn't mean that they can't get there. So it really is vital that we have conversations like this, I think, to inspire.
And like you mentioned, if the education stops sort of mid-education, say they stop in after 3 years or something else like this, it then makes it incredibly difficult. So then, when you face the workplace, we know how competitive the workplace is. So leaving school with no qualifications, it can early, you then go into the workforce, and if the support wasn't there then, and support's not in the workplace, it can be, that can play a huge part in someone's sort of mental well-being.
Definitely.
As well. We're coming up to our time. I could continue speaking to you for hours. We'd love to come back and revisit and have another conversation with you. There's so much incredible stuff that you're doing with your work and helping so many people. I cannot thank you enough for taking some time out of your busy schedule.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed yourself on our interview, and as always, we will come back and revisit. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Darren. It's such an amazing platform, and sharing our stories can only empower other people. So it's really brilliant. So thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for making time for me.
That's no problem at all. Just quickly, we will put links and everything on there. But if you could just tell people how they would, if they wanted to connect with yourself or find out.
Yeah, of course. So I'm on different platforms, but if you look for Rollett-Ed with a hyphen between the Rollett, which is ROLLETT, that's my surname, and also my Facebook group for dyslexia support is Lighthouse on Dyslexia. So that would be really good if you come and check me out. But we're all here to be supportive. So thanks, Darren.
No problem at all. Thank you so much. Take care, and I will see you very, very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video as much as we did putting it together. Now we have some more fantastic content for you. Please feel free to click this link here and learn more about Felice Muni, the founder of a school in Kenya that helps individuals with learning difficulties and differences. If you have any comments or questions, leave them in the comments below. And as always, thank you so much for watching.